Imagine this. You're walking through a dense forest, the ground uneven beneath your feet. Trees towers over you, scattered in a way that feels completely natural. Some leaning slightly, others growing perfectly upright. Rocks and fallen logs like where nature placed them, stopped by time, wind, and gravity. But what if I told you that the entire scene could be built inside Unreal Engine in minutes, not days? In this video, I'll show you how to use Unreal Engine's Procedural Content Generation, PCG, to create a realistic forest environment in Unreal Engine 5.4 and 5.5. You will learn how to randomly distribute objects across a surface, control their rotation so they align naturally, adjust density settings for a balanced scene, and even determine where their objects appear based on the steepness of the terrain. Whether you are making an open world game or a detailed level, mastering PCG will save you time and make your environments feel alive. But before we start, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss a video on Unreal Engine and how to build a career in the video game industry. After years of teaching game development, my mission now is help you break into the gaming industry with the Game Creator Accelerator, a lifetime mentorship designed to guide your first steps. If you want to learn more, email me at tony@woolun.com or check the description below. Now, let's get started. To present this tutorial, I use a third-person template from Unreal. The first step is to confirm that the Procedural Content Generation plugin is installed. So let's go to Edit, look for Plugins, let's search PCG. This should be the version that is available at this moment for Unreal 5.4 and 5.5. Select this one that says Procedural Content Generation Framework. Right now in beta version 0.2. Click on it, yes, and restart your project. Now that it's restarted, let's confirm that we have the plugin, and here it is. The next part is about creating a new level where we are going to test this. Go to File, New Level, and pick the Open World. Let's save this level. I'm going to create a folder called Game, and inside another one called Maps. Save the current level, new map 1. This map you can click play, and here's your character. But now I want to move to one of these mountains, very far away. So let's speed up the camera. Let's pick a place, maybe like this one, could work. Now we're going to create our first PCG. In content, remember that we create a folder called Game. I will add a new one where if I have several PCGs, I can add them all. Right click, select the PCG and PCG graph. Let's call this one PCG, probably forest. Open the PCG forest. I'm not going to use at this moment the input or output. Right click and look for Get Landscape Data. This is the first node we are going to use. From the out pin, drag a wire to Surface Sampler. This will give us an idea of how things will be distributed over the surface. Because we want to debug this information, you can right click and select the option of debug. You can also use the D key, or you can debug selecting this option here. Let's select this option, save, and move back to the map. Drag the new PCG object into the scene. You will see something like a cube that is covering a section of the scene. In fact, you can move this, and you will see that dynamically they are creating a group of points, a group of cubes all around. This is the first magic part of the PCGs, because we are creating an environment from nothing and we are allowing Unreal to be creative for us. Now I'm going to move the position of the character of where the player starts to some place close to this mountain because right now it is too far away. So I'm going to select the PC forest, right click on the location to copy, select the player start and paste the same location. And now let me move this position maybe a little bit closer to the floor like that. And if we play, there is our character and look how he's trying to go into the mountain. In fact, I'm going to move it just a little bit closer like that. Let's see. Excellent. Back to the PCG forest. The next node we'll add is called transform points. Let's play with these values. So selecting the node, let's move to the right. And the first thing we have is an offset min and offset max. This is to move the object with a small offset, considering a min and max value for all the coordinates. So let's say I will do something like -10, -10 and -10 to one side. And on the max, I will do the 10, 10, 10. That's on one side. By the way, I'm going to pause generation because you will probably want to see the difference as you move back to the map. I'm going to explain that in a second. The other thing you can play with is the rotation. But of course, we don't want to rotate all elements of these objects. I just want to focus on this section, which will be 360. Imagine that you are rotating a tree. You're just going to rotate the trunk in one position. You don't want to rotate all the positions. So I can say that the rotation could start on 0 and the max rotation can be 360. You can also say 180 and -180. It's easier for me to say 0 to 360. And finally, we can play with the scale. Let's say that I will do 0.5 and 0.7. At the moment that you start adding your meshes, you can have a more clear idea of how to play with the scales. You can see here in the surface sampler that we have this blue button. This indicates that the debug is in here. So I'm going to click on it and use the D key to remove the debug, and I'm going to click this one and add the D here. Now we have the debug on the transform point. Save, go to the map. Let's move up. Select the PCG forest and now click here on cleanup and then generate. Now you can see how the points are distributed randomly and rotate and they are rotated in different directions. Not only that, they are also scaled different sizes because we already set the different points where we want our meshes to appear. What rest is to add the meshes. You should have this button called Fab to access directly to the Fab library. Now, if you don't have it, it's because you didn't install the plugin of Fab for Unreal, for this version of Unreal. There is a video that I created about how to do that is called How to Use Fab in Unreal Engine 5. You will find the link in the description. Click on the Fab and something like this will open for you. In the search, look for forest. And on the price, you can pick the free option. And here you have a great group of assets you can add to your environment. In this case, I will use this temperate vegetation spruce. Add to the project and wait for a second. Once finished downloading, you will find this folder with the meshes that we want. Filter here by static meshes, and here are the ones that we are going to use. Let's go back to the PCG forest. It is time to present the static meshes. So drag an arrow from here to a new node called Static Mesh Spawner. Selecting the Static Mesh Spawner, look for the option of Mesh Selector. There's a parameter called the mesh entries. At this moment, you don't have any. Click here to add one element, open the index, the descriptor, and here's where we're going to add our static mesh. Control space to go to the meshes in the project of in the folder of our project, and I think it's this one, correct? And let's go for meshes. I will take the high first, the trees that are really big. So I'm going to drag this one here. Let's add another. Let's close this one. Same procedure. And another one. And now let's add another that could be a little bit smaller. Again here. Let's go to the low. Let's go to the, in fact, I will go to this high. Oh, these are pretty interesting. I'm going to change this one. So I'm going to turn on this one here. Add another type. And I will take this one. And finally, let's go with ones that are a bit smaller. Another one. And let's take one more. Excellent. So we have 8, well, in fact, 9 different types of trees. Oh, I didn't select this one. So at this moment, we have all these different types of meshes. There are 9, and this is going to be generated in the scene. Save, go back to the map, clean up, and generate. And here you will see now that the scene is generating with trees. Oh my God, sorry about that. Great, let's start and play with our character. And here you see a scene where you have the trees. Excellent, this is a great first step. But as you can notice, the trees are following the normal of the surface, which is not how trees works. The trees are always pointing up. We're going to fix that in a second. This element that refers to the rotation based on the normal of the surface, as you can imagine, is part of the transform node. Now, what is the parameter that we have to check? It is one called the absolute rotation. What you want is to click on here, save, go to the map, clean up, generate, and here are the trees as they should look. They are pointing up, as what we should expect in a place like this one, in a forest like this one. Let's remove the debug for the transform point. Select it and click D. Save, clean up, and regenerate. And here it is. Fantastic. Now, a cool trick inside the PCG forest for the surface sampler is that you are able to unbound. At this moment, you are bounded by the box that you created, but you can also unbound this, save, and see how this is going to look if we use the same sampling that you created a moment ago for your entire scene. And I have to tell you guys, this is pretty cool. Of course, you're going to pay in terms of the rendering and the frames per second, but it's pretty cool to have an idea of how this is going to look. Let's go back to the PCG and unbound again, uncheck, save, clean up, and generate. The next part is talking about the density. You might feel that in this scene your trees are too close one to each other, so you can control this as well with the PCG. Click on the PCG. Let's add a new node called Density Filter. Move this to one side, disconnect this, and connect to Density Filter. And now these two. In fact, I'm going to disconnect this for a second to show you something. And in Density Filter, click D to debug. The Density Filter allows you to remove points that do not meet a certain density threshold. Each point in a PCG graph can have a density attribute which represents how likely it is to be retained. By clicking density, you will see that you have a lower bound and an upper bound. 0 represents total black and 1 represents the density of total white. Let me show you what does that mean in the map. Save, go to the map, clean up, generate again, and here you can see the density of different objects depending on how black or white the objects are. At this moment, you see that some of the objects were totally removed. Why? Well, because the parameters that we have at this moment for the density are moving between 0.5 and 1. Let's move it to 0, to complete 0. Save, new map, clean up, generate. Now you can see that you have a lot of different points, but some of them are very, very black or very close to black. That means that the value of these points is close to 0. While you are increasing this value, you are defining where is the minimum point that will define the density and that will define a filter that is going to cut those elements. So let's say that we move it again to 0.5, which is halfway. Save, new map, clean up, regenerate, and here are the only blocks that will stay. In other words, what the density filter does is that by comparing each point's density value to a specific minimum threshold, if the point's density is below that threshold, it gets removed. The higher the threshold, the fewer points remain. Now let's connect back to the transform points and the static mesh spawner, save, new map, clean up, and generate. Now you have less trees all around the map that we created. Let's remove the debug, save, and here you have a new map. Next step is to use this landscape and adding some surface that looks a bit better than what we have at this moment. So we go to the outliner, select the landscape, and here you have a parameter called the material for the landscape. For the meshes that we import, we also have a folder called materials. And here are the master materials. And you have something called the ground summer. I think we can use this material, not the winter. Yeah, I think I will use this one. Let me open it and see how it looks. Oh, it looks fantastic. Drag this material to the landscape material. I give your computer a bit of time to process all this. Now let's play. Looking good. Of course, we can spread a little more of trees and grass, etc. But now you get the idea. I will change the lower point of the density filter that we have on 0.5 to 0.1. The goal is to have more trees. PCG forest. Clean up, generate, and here it is. We have more trees. Spread it. Fantastic. Play. And it's looking good. The next part is about controlling how these meshes will be presented on over the surface based on the steepness of the surface. You can imagine that, let's say that you have a mountain that has a really high steep. Probably you don't want to show trees in that section because it makes no sense. So how can you control when a mesh will appear depending on the steep? For that, go back to the PCG forest, and we're going to add a new node. But first, let's rearrange some elements here. I'm going to select all this group to copy and duplicate on the bottom. And the difference with this one will be that we're going to add a new node on this section. The name of the node is normal to density. Let's place it here and now connect to the density filter. Let's disconnect this and move the output to this surface. In fact, before showing the entire result, let's disconnect the section that goes to the density filter. Save, new map, clean up, and generate. And as you can see at this moment, we don't have any points to show. That's why, well, because I forgot to do this. Now, let's go back, clean up, and generate. Now we have the points and we can see them more clear, definitely. At this moment, all the boxes are very clear, very white. But if we go to the PCG forest, go to select the normal density and play with this value of the strength, let's move it to another limit like 0.1. Save, clean up, and generate. Now you can start seeing the different colors that are associated with the steep of the surface. Where the surface is more steep, the colors of these boxes will be darker. And this is how you are going to control when an object is going to appear off or not. If the color is really dark, well, what you want is to cut the possibilities that in this surface that objects will be presented. Now let's connect this with the density filter. Clean up and regenerate. And here you can see all the objects that can be presented on the surface. But now let's imagine that this steep is too steep, and I wish to filter these two objects here. Go to the PCG forest and select the density filter. We set the normal density from 0.1, which will be the strength is 0.1. And in the density filter, we define that we want to present objects that goes from 0.1 to 1. Let's move this just a little bit. Let's say 0.3. And look what will happen here. Clean up and generate. Now you see that you have less trees because, or less spaces where you are going to present a mesh. Because we are telling the system that for the darker colors, we don't want to add a mesh. Back here, let's click the normal to density, remove the debug, clean up, and generate. And here is the final map that you have, where in certain sections, because of the steep on the surface, you are not going to present trees. Now that we have what we want to for the trees, I'm going to take all this group of nodes, duplicate them, and instead of using the static meshes related to the trees, I wish to add some grass. Go to the new map, Fab, and look for grass. Select the brush to be free, and let's pick this one. Add to project. Fantastic. Let's see where is the folder. Fab, Megascan. All right. Go back to the PCG. Add a new static mesh spawner. And in this case, we are going to select the grass. I would say 3 different types of grass will be okay. Open the first one and look for the grass folder. I can connect as well the get landscape data to this surface sampler. What will happen is that we're going to present the trees based on this setting that we have on the top, and we're going to present the grass based on the setting on the bottom. But because of the setting of the bottom is at this moment exactly the same as on the top, we're going to make some small changes. First, the density filter. I want to reduce this. I want to put this in 0.1 because I want the grass to be more dense than the trees. The transform position is also going to be changed because I don't want the scale to be 0.5. The grass is already small. So I will use the 1 and 1.5 for the max. And another thing I want to change, because the grass got to be more dense, click the surface sampler, open the points extend, and let's move these, instead of 100, which will be 1 meter for every box, let's go to half that space. Now save, new map, clean up, generate, and now you can see all elements of grass around the surface. Let's get closer to that section, and it's getting more sense. As we add more elements, this is starting to look better and better and better. Now tell me, what are you planning to do with the procedural content generation? Drop it in the comments. I want to know how I can help you. If you're having trouble finding job opportunities in the gaming industry or want to transition to a career in games without quitting your current job, I'm here to help. It is possible. Reach out to me at tony@woolun.com or check the description for more info and options. If this video added value to you, like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss tips and tutorials on Unreal Engine and how to build your successful career in video games. And be sure to check out this video next on Indie Dev Biggest Mistakes You Need to Avoid. Until next time, keep creating, keep sharing, and most importantly, keep dreaming big. I'll see you soon, my fellow creators.